Claire blinked twice at the subject line. Position eliminated, effective immediately. No warning, no meeting. Just a cold email from HR at 6:07 a.m. on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. She scrolled through the body, hoping it was a mistake. But her name, Sergeant Claire Harrison, was there, bold and correct, stripped of ceremony. It wasn't even from her supervisor, just a template. She stared at the screen, heart numb. The hospital had just held a trauma simulation she designed. 2 weeks ago, she trained a batch of medics who would now deploy to Eastern Europe. One of them had written, "You made me believe I could survive." But none of that made it into the spreadsheet. By 6:10, she was out of the system. Claire didn't tell anyone. Instead, she packed her single duffel bag, ironed her dress shirt, and hit the road. "You're still coming?" her mother had texted the night before. Claire replied with a thumbs-up emoji. The long drive to her parents' house in Virginia felt like being stitched into old skin. Same exits, same gas station coffee, same sinking in her stomach. By the time she reached the cracked driveway, she'd practiced 23 versions of "I'm fine." The porch light flickered, still not fixed after all these years. She knocked, not because she had to, but because she knew they needed the warning. Time to brace, to sigh, to remind themselves, be polite, she's still family. Her father opened the door. His eyes immediately scanned her outfit. "You're not in combat anymore," he muttered. "You can dress normal, Claire." No, welcome home. No, how was the drive? Just judgment in khaki slacks. Inside, the house smelled like cinnamon rolls and disapproval. Her mother hugged her like a dress form, arms stiff, smile thinner. "You're early," her mom said, already walking away. Then came the inevitable entrance. Nathan, her brother, tech mogul, keynote speaker, suburban legend. All 6 feet of ambition in a wool coat and polished loafers. "Still playing Army Girl, huh?" He grinned, slapping her shoulder like a frat boy. Claire gave a tight nod. "Still playing Golden Boy?" He didn't answer. At the dinner table, Claire's name card didn't say Claire. It said Sergeant Harrison, like she was attending as a colleague, not as blood. She sat beside the empty chair at the edge, half invisible. Conversation flew past her like crossfire. Her mother raved about her Pilates instructor. Her father talked about golf with a retired senator. Nathan launched into the beta test of his AI startup. Claire cleared her throat. "There was a girl I carried out of a blast zone in Syria, 7 years old, both parents gone. Her name was—" "Let's not talk about bombs at the table," her mother cut in. "It's Thanksgiving." Claire froze. Even the cranberry sauce seemed to harden on her plate. Later that night, she stood in the backyard alone, hands in her pockets, breath fogging under the stars. She looked at the house behind her, windows glowing with laughter she wasn't part of. She had held arteries closed under sniper fire, pulled men from rubble, trained others to save lives when every second meant death or survival. But in this house, she was still the girl who quit piano. The next morning, a white envelope waited on the kitchen table. Nathan's wedding invitation. The name printed on it stopped her. Sergeant Claire Harrison. No dear, no sister, just rank. Like that's the only version of her they could tolerate. She held the envelope between her fingers. The corners were sharp enough to draw blood. She whispered, "I'll go, but not for them. If you've ever been overlooked after giving your all, type 1. Claire adjusted her collar in the hotel mirror. Her dress uniform was pristine, dark navy pressed so sharply it could cut. She had polished every metal by hand, each one earned with blood, precision, and silence. But none of that prepared her for what she saw next. A post from Dr. Marcus Feldman, her junior colleague at Walter Reed, flashed across her phone. "Proud to present my trauma response model to the National Triage Task Force today. Honored to share my latest work with the people who matter." She blinked. His trauma response model? The color drained from her face. That was her framework. Every line, every technique, every simulation she had built across years of deployments and nights spent drafting manuals. He had taken her work, slapped his name on it, and called it innovation. And the task force, the same one that had quietly extended her an interview, was being presented with a plagiarized version of her legacy. Claire set the phone down slowly. No time to burn the world. Today was Nathan's wedding. She arrived at the vineyard in silence, the rental car gliding along gravel like a hearse. Vines curled around marble columns. Guests sipped rosé and posed beneath fairy lights. Every step her boots took clicked against imported stone. People turned, too fast, too long, then looked away, embarrassed. She spotted her mother first. Gown of soft gray silk, pearls at her neck, and a familiar tightness in her smile. "Oh," her mother said, eyes dropping to the uniform. "You wore that." Claire didn't flinch. "I didn't see a dress code that excluded national service." Her mother's lip twitched. "We just didn't want to draw too much attention. It's Nathan's day." Claire gave a small nod. "Of course. Wouldn't want a decorated war veteran pulling focus from a man who automates coffee orders with an app." Her father approached, offered a drink, said nothing. Then came the bride's mother. "You're the sister, right? I heard you're some kind of doctor. So noble." Claire forced a smile. "Combat medic?" "Oh, like an army nurse?" "No, like someone who holds pressure on gunshot wounds while returning fire." The woman paled and stepped back. Claire walked away. The ceremony was held under a wooden arch wrapped in white roses. Claire sat in the second row next to an empty chair, again. Nathan avoided eye contact as he walked down the aisle, casting her only a flicker of unease. He looked like he expected her to stand up and shout something, but Claire didn't come to ruin anything, not out loud. At the reception, a cluster of cousins cornered her near the charcuterie table. "What do you even do now?" one asked, half laughing. "Like day to day?" Claire answered plainly, "I teach trauma triage. I train medics to keep soldiers alive under fire. I've memorized the human skeletal system in 4 languages. And I've held children while they died." Silence. Then a whisper. "Damn. I thought you were just, like, intense. That's badass." Claire nodded. "It is." Then the room shifted, a tap on her shoulder. She turned and gasped. Standing before her, flanked by Secret Service, was the president. He extended a hand. "Sergeant Claire Harrison?" She froze. "Yes, sir." He gripped her hand firmly. "I've read your file. You've saved more lives than any general I've met. Because of you, battlefield survival rates jumped 40%. That's not just brave, it's genius under fire." Gasps. Champagne flutes stilled midair. Her mother clutched her wine glass. Nathan stood frozen. The president raised his voice. "She didn't just serve. She transformed how we save lives." Claire stood in the center of a room that had erased her, and watched it finally break. If you've ever been told to shrink so someone else could shine, type 2. The Monday after the wedding, Claire sat at her desk in the Walter Reed Simulation Lab, eyes locked on the screen. An internal email had been forwarded anonymously. Subject line, triage protocol review, credit attribution correction. She opened the attachment and froze. Dr. Feldman's name had been removed, replaced with hers. Every chart, diagram, and data set now bore the heading, Original Framework, Sergeant Claire Harrison, Retire, Advanced Battlefield Triage. No explanation, no apology, just truth, restored. Her heart beat against her ribs, not from rage, not from vengeance, but from something softer. Vindication didn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it came in font size 12, black and white, impossible to debate. Then came a knock. It was Colonel Banks, head of medical operations. "Claire, you're wanted upstairs. Conference room C." She followed him silently, unsure what to expect. When the door opened, the president's photo hung on the wall. 4 officials were waiting. "Sergeant Harrison," one said, standing, "we'd like you to co-lead the National Medical Response Policy Unit, effective immediately." Claire blinked. "But why now?" A woman in uniform spoke gently. "Because people finally saw what you've been doing all along. And we're not just listening, we're learning." That night, Claire sat alone in her apartment, uniform draped neatly across her bed. She hadn't worn it since the wedding. She touched the medals one by one, each cool to the fingertips, each a scar made visible. Her phone buzzed, a message from Nathan. "I'm sorry, for everything." She stared at it, didn't reply. Instead, she opened her email and began writing something else entirely, a training manual revision, her way of building forward, not looking back. The next morning, she stood in front of a new class of recruits, young, green, hopeful. One nervously raised a hand. "Ma'am, are you the one from the video? The rescue in Kandahar?" Claire paused. "Yes." Then she smiled. "But right now, I'm the one who's going to teach you not to pass out when you see real blood." Laughter broke the tension. A girl in the back grinned. "Can we really do this?" Claire walked over and held out a tourniquet. "Only if you stop thinking of yourself as decoration and start training like someone people will trust to keep them alive." The girl's smile deepened. Later that evening, Claire returned to the wedding photo. There she stood, front and center, medals gleaming, not shoved to the edge, not cropped out. Her mother had said nothing after the president's speech, but during the last song, she'd touched Claire's hand, trembling. "I didn't know," she whispered. Claire didn't flinch. "You never asked." It wasn't an apology, but it was a beginning. Months passed. Claire's protocols were implemented in 17 field hospitals. She co-wrote a trauma handbook now used in NATO training. Interviews came, articles, features. She didn't post the family photo, but someone else did. Caption: "The one they almost overlooked saved thousands. Meet Sergeant Claire Harrison, medic, mentor, miracle in motion." Her inbox flooded, mothers asking how to prepare daughters for combat roles, young women writing, "They said I wasn't strong enough, but then I read about you." And somewhere in the blur, a message from Dr. Feldman. "You win, I was wrong." She didn't reply. Because this wasn't about winning, it was about finally being seen, without permission, without pretending. Now when people ask who she is, she no longer leads with a title. She says, "I'm Claire. I've saved lives, buried fear, and rebuilt trust where silence once lived." And when they ask if she forgives her family, she just says, "I don't need them to see me anymore. I already saw myself." If you've ever stopped waiting for permission to be powerful, type 3.